Hello everyone, and welcome back. This series will be very similar to my Why I Hate and Why I Love videos, but for champions that I don't have any strong feelings towards, or may be problematic or entirely irrelevant due to balancing, reworks, shifts in the meta, etc. I'll be taking a close look at their abilities, design, and history to better understand what went wrong, or in some cases, what went right. So if you make it to the end of the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, it really helps me out. Today we'll be looking at the problem with Sona, Maven of the Strings. Fun fact, the word Maven means an expert or connoisseur, which I've never heard before, and somehow despite playing League for almost 10 years, I never bothered to check what Sona's title was. Anyways, Sona has been a fan favorite in League since her release back in 2010. Widely believed to be inspired by the pop culture idol Hatsune Miku, Sona is an enchanter-style support who uses the power of music to cast spells using her signature instrument, the étoile. Étoile. This is not a real instrument, though it does strongly resemble a Chinese instrument known as a gyukin, which is a stringed instrument that's traditionally played. I'm sorry, I'll actually talk about the champion now. As I previously mentioned, Sona is an enchanter-style support with an array of abilities that provide herself and nearby allies with different buffs and is equipped with a fairly strong teamfight ultimate. So before I go into the history of her tragic downfall, let's go over her abilities. I'll be talking about her passive last since it makes the most sense and it kind of ties all of her other abilities together. Sona's Q, Hymn of Valor, sends out 2 bolts of sound that will target the 2 nearest enemy champions, doing damage and granting sight around them for 1 second. Sona and any allied champions within the ability's aura will deal bonus magic damage on their next basic attack within 5 seconds. It's a very simple poke tool that can't necessarily be missed and gives your teammates an opportunity to deal some bonus damage. Sona's W, Aria of Perseverance, will heal Sona and a nearby ally with the lowest health while granting anyone in the ability's aura a small shield. The stats and scaling on this ability are meh. It's not the worst, but it's certainly not anything to write home about. Sona's E, Song of Celerity, who's coming up with these words? Song of Celerity grants herself movement speed for several seconds or until damaged and creates an aura that grants allies movement speed for 3 seconds. That's literally it, it's very simple. Sona's ult, Crescendo, sends a large wave of sound in a target direction, dealing damage and stunning enemies for 1.5 seconds. And just for a little flavor, any champions that get stunned are actually forced to do their dance animation. Finally, let's explain her passive, the thing that ties it all together. Power Chord has 3 parts. Accelerando will generate stacks of Accelerando whenever she hits an enemy champion with her Q and when she successfully mitigates damage or heals allies with her W. Each stack grants Sona 0.5 ability haste up to a maximum of 60 when she reaches her cap at 120 stacks. Any stacks after that will instead reduce the remaining cooldown of her ultimate by 1.5 seconds. Just to be clear, that doesn't permanently reduce the cooldown of her ultimate, it only reduces its current cooldown. Had to read that one a few times. Melody is the second part of Sona's passive that's responsible for the auras she generates with her abilities that empower herself and allies. And finally, Power Chord grants her auto attack a unique property after casting 3 basic spells. Each spell cast will grant Sona a stack of Power Chord, and at 3 stacks, Sona's next basic attack will do bonus magic damage as well as apply a unique on-hit effect, depending on the last basic spell she used. After casting her Q, her basic attack will deal an even greater amount of magic damage. After casting W, her basic attack will reduce the target size by 8% as well as reducing the damage dealt by 25% for 2 seconds. After casting E, her basic attack will slow the target by 50% for 2 seconds, with the strength of the slow scaling with her AP. Her unique passive effects help her during laning phase, and once late game hits, she has a pretty short ult cooldown, making her very strong for teamfights. Relatively speaking, Sona has a pretty simple kit. Being a product of her time, she was a very early champion release that really catered to a lot of pop culture fans. If you aren't familiar with early League of Legends, then it's worth mentioning that some of the earliest stages of the game's development were very heavily influenced by pop culture, boasting champion designs that strongly resemble notable fantasy characters and monsters, like how Warwick was created with the idea of a werewolf in mind, or how Vayne bears strong similarities to the iconic movie character Blade. It's because of creative choices like these that really drew players in, and Sona is no exception. It is a very simple and timeless design that hasn't needed much work over the years, making her very approachable and well liked by most players. It saddens me to say that Sona was one of the few champions that spoke directly to the player piloting them, but with the release of her PsyOps skin, Riot decided to take that opportunity to change her voice lines. Champions referring to the player as Summoner is a thing of the past that I quite honestly miss. It creates a sort of intimate connection between the player and the characters that makes so much sense to have on Sona. In her lore, it's stated that, as a young girl, Sona was considered shy and quiet, until it became apparent that she couldn't speak at all. So if it isn't obvious, she's a mute, but it's implied through her old voice lines that she can communicate with the player telepathically, with one of her staple quotes being,
"Only you can hear me, Summoner."
You'll also notice that when in-game, other players can't hear her voice lines. It's a very unique characteristic that really helps define her as a champion and probably a big reason that people like her. Moving back towards her gameplay, she used to be a no-brainer when it came to support. Before so many champions were added to the game, Sona was a top-tier pick for enchanters due to her simplicity and effectiveness in a meta that wasn't as overloaded as the one we have today. But everything changed with the announcement and release of the veritable Banshee herself, Seraphine. Many of you know this story already, but let's beat this dead horse one more time for all the Sona mains in the back. In 2020, Riot announced that Seraphine would be added to the game in October, along with her legendary KDA skin. Thematically, she just doesn't fit into the League universe whatsoever. Granted, that's my opinion, and other people may not feel the same way, but from my experience as a longtime player, it hurt me to see what Riot had done. Seraphine is a pop star idol born in Piltover to Zonite parents that uses Hextech contraptions to perform her music in an effort to raise the morale of the people. Visually, she is hopelessly out of place in the world of Runeterra. Boasting vibrant pink hair and a dazzling glitter-covered outfit, Seraphine totes around Summoner's Rift, microphone in hand, on her DDR pad. Most people can look at this and know it doesn't belong here. You have a map filled with ghostly centaurs, bladed assassins, astral beings that wield unfathomable power, fighting to the death in this fantasy arena, and Seraphine pulls up on her hovering karaoke machine. It hurts. It really does. But this isn't the only reason that players received her so negatively. Seraphine's abilities are so painfully similar to Sona's that it could be considered criminal that they didn't just make this Sona's rework. It was a perfect opportunity to give Sona the update she so rightfully deserved after many years of neglect, but she was instead swept under the rug and forgotten. The worst part is that because Seraphine is such a powerful and effective alternative to Sona, having such similar abilities and whatnot, chances of Sona ever seeing an update again are little to none. It would be near impossible to rework Sona knowing Seraphine exists without completely losing her identity. What could they possibly do to bring Sona up to modern League standards without changing her entirely? It's because of these tragic events that Sona mains will forever hold a special place in my heart. I do genuinely hope that one day Sona might get the attention she deserves, but until then I hope you Sona mains will play your hearts out. Let me know in the comments what you would like to see Riot do for Sona in the future, or if you like her the way she is. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.